Hi, Robin with Oxy-Dry, and today is actually going to be a kind of a continuation of the last video where I kind of did a monologue. Only this time I realized with the last video I have a screensaver on my phone and it was covering up the reverse camera, so I was very blurry. I fixed that. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit further about the SETT acronym, and I'm going to give us some perspective on a little bit of history, which when I watched Brandon's video the other day, if you haven't watched it yet, I would recommend you go onto Brandon's, let's see if this works. Is that better? I can glare in my eye. Onto Brandon BM carpet cleaning video he posted the other day, where it's got the SETT on the thumbnail, I guess, and he talks a little bit about some history there, which I didn't even know about, with Allard Gann and the VLM acronym, which apparently he came up with, and it made me start thinking a little bit about what we're hoping to have happen with the SETT acronym, and so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of perspective and history on this, because it's kind of interesting. But here's the logo. That's it right there. I'm not sure are you getting that in reverse? I don't sure how that works. Anyway, and I have that logo obviously on my, this is my brochure that I give to every customer, by the way. And when I go into the home and I tell them what I'm going to charge, I give them one of these, and then I put the price that I'm going to charge them. Got this spot right here, and I put the price on there, and I hand that to them, and it explains everything that I'm going to do. I've been doing that for, well, actually pretty much since the very beginning, I guess. So let's talk about the SETT, and I think you might find this a bit interesting, because when I saw Brandon's video, it made me realize, wait a minute, we've heard this story before. So we're going to go back quite a number of years, and we're going to talk about a gentleman by the name of Ed York. And 28 years ago, 30 years ago, actually, I guess, almost 30 years ago, Ed York is was one of the old granddaddies of carpet cleaning. Some of you older guys know who I'm talking about. And he was actually a friend of my dad's. And he was the guy that introduced me to, I'd actually been curious about ozone. By the way, that's where the Oxy comes from in my name, is a reference to ozone. But way back in the beginning, I had learned some things about ozone and wondered if it could be used for carpet cleaning. And I phoned up Ed York, and because it turns out that Ed York at the time, this would have been early 90s, that Ed York had been promoting the use of ozone in carpet cleaning, and also something else, which I'll get to in a sec. But anyway, so I talked to him about it, and we had a good conversation. And he also had a kind of a group that he had created, which was, I think it was called the Direct Buyers Group, and I can't remember whether you bought into it or whatever, but he operated like a wholesale club, I guess you could call it. And you could he'd send you a binder, had a whole bunch of different products and everything in there. You could buy it at almost cost, I guess. That was a long time ago now. But and one of the things he sold was an ozone generator, and I ended up buying one from him. And he told me what ozone would do. I also found other information other places, and so I used the ozone in my cleaning as I would use aqueous ozone I'd mix it into the water, and it would bond temporarily with the water molecules. And anyway, that was a long time ago. I segued out of that. Oh, how long ago was that? Maybe 10 years ago? Not quite 10 years. Oh, almost, I guess. When I discovered the stabilized ClO2. That's a whole other story. It basically does the same thing, only more. But back to Ed York. So Ed York, he was, I believe, I'm not positive about this, but I believe that Ed York was the guy that brought the Cymex over to North America. I'm not absolutely positive about that, but this is way back in the beginning when nobody had heard of the Cymex. And I do know that Ed York was the first person that I ever heard of to start talking about the Cymex machine. And a little bit after that, I'm not sure exactly when, another gentleman by the name of Rick Galinas got the distributorship for the Cymex. I don't know whether he got it from Ed York or exactly how that happened. That's not relevant, really. But prior to this, carpet cleaning, we had your steam cleaning and we had obviously bonnet cleaning, but the granddaddy of all has been rotary shampooing with a rotary machine. And way back in the beginning, most of the time guys would just put shampoo into the tank and shower feed it down using usually a brush, and they go over the carpet and scrub it with a brush. They didn't have fiber pads then. That was something that Rick Galinas brought on. And so it was just brushes, and sometimes they would follow it up with a wet vacuum and suck up excess moisture or whatever. And back in the beginning of the early days, the shampoo that was used was actually a coconut oil based shampoo, and it was highly residual, and although it would clean the carpet, it made the carpet resoil rapidly. And that's where a lot of the bad reputation with shampoo, that's a bad word, remember, came along. And so come back to about 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, when I was talking to Ed York, and the Cymex machine came on the market around about that time. A little bit later than that, I actually was in Victoria, and I believe it was the very first Cymex machine that was imported into Canada. We got it from Ed York. It was my brother who actually brought it in, and I remember the first time seeing one, and definitely was impressed with it. But at the time, I thought, I like the way it works, but I don't like the idea of it not removing any dirt from the carpet. I understood the idea of how the encapsulator was supposed to work. However, prior to this, back in the old days using a rotary shampooer, the companies that made the products realized that there was a problem, and they began to segue away from the coconut oil based shampoos, and they started making synthetic shampoos, and they came up with something called crystallization. And I remember back in the late 70s and early 80s going with my dad into Acme Janitorial in Victoria, and talking to the guys there, and the guy, I remember him and going, "Oh, this is a new product, you'll like this. This is a crystallizing shampoo." And what it does is when you use it in your machine, you scrub it into the carpet, it'll dry to a crystal, hold the soil in suspension in a crystal form, and afterwards you vacuum it out. And that was what it was. And there was a lot of different products that came out around that time, and they talked about the crystallization. Now we move forward a few years, and Rick Galinas came on the market, or came into the business. Now his background was he was doing a lot, and I think almost entirely commercial carpeting, and he tried various different machines, rotary shampooers, which worked, but to hand somebody a rotary shampooer and just say, go clean a carpet, well, that's not going to work really well, because there's definitely a skill set that has to be developed to really get to handle a rotary well, actually, especially if you're applying solution. And then he was using Chemstructors for a while there, and if you're not familiar with that, you look up the Chemstructor, you'll find information on that those online. Basically, it's a rotary shampooer with a tank on it that you feed the solution down. There's a suction tube around the perimeter of the machine, and a vacuum tank sitting on top of the motor, and you'd go apply your cleaning product and suck it up at the same time. I actually experimented with making one of those myself for about a year or two. I actually had a vacuum system set up on my rotary, but it was too cumbersome. I went away from that. But anyway, back to Rick Galinas. He became the distributor for the Cymex, but he realized that he had a bit of a problem, and that would be, how am I gonna market this machine unless I have a product? He wanted a product line of his own, which makes sense because you can make a lot of money selling chemicals. And so he went to a chemist and he said, I want a cleaning product that's going to clean really well, but I want it to crystallize so that after you clean it with a Simex, which is just scrubbing in basically a Simex is a rotary shampooer with 3 small heads that turn, and the heads turn around the drive plate. So it's basically like 3 rotary shampooers all at once. So, and he realized that it was a very simple machine to use, so you could give it to someone who had very little experience and they could be successful at shampooing the carpet. But he wanted to come up with a different terminology for it, and so he came up with the terminology of encapsulating, which is actually crystallization. Same thing, just a different word and a different it gave him a marketing position, because shampoo is bad, encapsulating good. So I remember back then when he first started doing that, I remember seeing videos of him and whatever, and I thought, well, it's actually shampooing, but I get it. I understood what he was doing and where he was going with that, and I thought, well, good on him, as long as it works. So he also, by the way, was the first one to come up with using the fiber pads, which because the Simex originally comes just with brushes, but he was the one that created this, or discovered the use of the fiber pads under your machine, either rotary or you can put under an OP as well, and of course the Simex. And so he came up with that. So what I'm trying to get at is that Rick Galinas took a pre-existing methodology, shampooing, and rebranded it by calling it something different. And the term of encapsulation is actually descriptive of exactly how that system works. And the cleaning solution, when scrubbed in, either using a Simex or a rotary or an OP or even a CRB, will encapsulate the soil as it dries, and as it encapsulates the soil, it doesn't adhere to the carpet fiber, and you vacuum it out. So he's encapsulating. That's how pure encapsulation works. Now, now we're talking about the SETT methodology. This is an acronym that came up with about 5 or 6 years ago, and the reason I did is because I was pondering on where this methodology fits in carpet cleaning, and I realized that we want to move away from the terminology of calling it bonnet cleaning because of its perception, because of the history with janitors with bonnet cleaning. I talked about this in the last video, but also shampooing is also something we don't want to be associating with, because we're not actually shampooing, obviously. And the connotation of how that word is related to where it started originally. But we're also not encapsulating, because we're actually not relying on the cleaning product to encapsulate the soil in the vac carp, and the homeowner or business is going to be extracting the soil after the fact. We don't actually extract the soil like a Simex doesn't extract the soil. So I came up with the idea that, well, let's call it what it actually is. I thought, okay, well, we're extracting soil, and we're transferring the soil from the carpet fiber to the absorbent pad. So I came up with the idea of calling it soil, show you my finger, soil extraction transfer technology. It's descriptive, it's simple. The acronym of SETT is easily recognized and remembered. And then when you're talking to somebody about how you clean carpets, you can say, well, I use the SETT methodology. And rather than saying I use VLM, because VLM covers every type of low moisture method, whether it be a dry foam or a CRB or a Simex, even using like a rotor wash, which is actually like a CRB anyway. Any of the low moisture processes are kind of are covered with the term VLM, whereas the SETT acronym, or the SETT term, is specifically about a methodology that's using either a rotary or an OP and transferring the soil onto a pad from the carpet. So it's a soil extraction transfer technology. And so I think it's the future. I think that, if those of you guys who are watching this are using SETT, and you're not calling it SETT, you should call it SETT. And to make it easy for you, anybody who wants, any independent operator, you can contact me at info@oxydry.ca, and I will send you a JPEG of this logo that you can use either on your advertising. You can create stickers for your equipment or on your vehicle. You put it on your website. I don't charge anything for this. This is free. I want this to work. I want this to happen for all of us. And definitely go and take a look at some of Brandon's videos, BM carpet cleaning. He's got some really good videos. He talks about why this is a great idea, because it really is a great idea, and explains what's happening as far as on the internet. Doing a search under SETT carpet cleaning on Google, it's really quite amazing what comes up. And I didn't even realize this till I saw that video, and it's like, my goodness me, this is really working. So, join us. If you're using a pad machine, rotary, or OP, join us. Become just adopt the SETT as your descriptive term for what you're doing. Ask me for the logo. It's yours, free. I want this to be a success for everybody, and let's make this really happen. And it's something I think that will result in only good things for all of us. So all the videos that I've been putting out and Brandon's been putting out have been showing how to do this properly. It's not that I haven't created a new method. I've created a new way of describing the method and a new marketing position. So this will be a good thing for all involved, I'm sure. So anyway, you're welcome to join us all. If you're using pad machines, please become a SETT guy, I guess you could say. I hope to be a blessing to you all. So that's why I'm doing it, and I want to help you all. So anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good day.